as regulars will know, I live out in the country. I live in the foothills of the Coast Range, about 30-ish miles west of Portland. And out here, well, internet connectivity is sporadic and also not particularly blessed with choice. So, for example, I could get ADSL. That's the stuff that replaced dial-up internet. It goes to the telephone pole outside my house, and whatever the local telephone company is will sell me an internet package with a 1.5 megabits per second cap. They will also charge me a ridiculously large sum of money for it, and based on my own personal experiences with those kinds of rural internet back in the UK, on the farm where I grew up and where my mum still lives, well, they say up to 1.5 megabits per second, but what they really mean is, if you're lucky. Here at the house, we have a full-height server rack. When we bought the house, we never had this full-height server rack because we used to have a studio in downtown Hillsboro, Oregon, where we had all of the TE equipment. And so this server and most of this stuff lived at the office, and the only thing that kind of existed in the house was this, which is our family server, which has the Home Assistant and all of the cool automations that we have at the house. Pretty much everything else is needed for the business, including this, which is a little M2 Mac Mini that we desperately need to replace because it is struggling these days. Yes, that's a plug to support us by going to patreon.com/transport evolved. But when we bought the house, we were sitting on the fence as to whether it would be a practical place to live, because at the time there was only one local internet provider that offered anything approaching decent internet speeds, and that was a local ISP whose maximum package was 20 megabits per second down and about 10 megabits per second up. And that was fine because we weren't making videos at the house and then uploading them from the house. I would drive to work, I would do a day's work, and then I'd come back here in the evening, and my home was the place that I didn't work. And I had a studio, and it was lovely, and I could just have all of my hobbies and everything else. And the room behind this is actually the filming studio where we film 10 and all of our videos and where we keep all of our equipment and gear. That used to be our guest room and my sewing room and project room. Yeah, I miss those days. But when COVID came along, we made a budgetary decision for the benefit of the entire team. Namely, I decided it made 0 cents at all to be spending over $1,000 a month to rent a building and then another $1,000 a month to pay for all of the other things we needed for that building. And it would make more sense for me to pay everybody a decent livable wage and just to work from home. And there are some tax benefits to working from home as well. You can claim back the parts of your house that you use exclusively for business work, for example. I'm not an accountant, but you get my drift. Also, when we added solar panels to the house, it also meant that we could charge up EVs that came to the house relatively easily. It lowered our energy costs, and several years in, our solar panels are still working exceptionally well. That means that the cost of ownership for our EVs, the F-150 Lightning, the Chevrolet Bolt with a B, and also the Vectrex VX1 are much lower than they would be had we just had to pay the local utility bill for our electricity, especially since this little beauty rack here consumes on average between 1.5 and 2 kilowatts just doing this. And we do turn off all of the TE servers at the weekend unless we're doing a maintenance process, which is what we had to do last weekend, and that reduces our kind of baseline consumption for this room to about 600 watts, which is a lot more manageable when you have solar. So let's talk about the internet connection. When we moved here, the internet connection was perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable for non-work related stuff. But when COVID came along, my partner was working from home, I was working from home for a short while, our daughter still lived at home and she was working sometimes, and sometimes she was just browsing the internet. we needed more internet connectivity. And so we took the plunge, and when Starlink first became available, we ordered Starlink. Now, despite my personal problems with Elon Musk, I object to a lot of the things he said and done over his life, I decided, okay, Starlink is the best option for us at that time because our local ISP was not able to provide the kind of speeds that we needed. And when COVID came along, I reached out to my local ISP and ended up paying a little bit more every month so that we could get a business connection, which was, at the time, 20 megabits per second down and 20 megabits per second up, which was okay. It was kind of expensive, but we swallowed the costs to enable me to be able to upload videos to the internet more easily. However, over the last 2 years, as Elon Musk's attacks against communities that I feel very passionate about, and as his rhetoric against trans people, and as his tendencies weave ever closer to supporting authoritarianism, culminating with the election of Donald Trump at the end of 2024, I have felt more and more icky about using Starlink. And so we've been on the lookout for ways to stop using Starlink. We've been on the lookout for ways to not use Tesla superchargers. And I know that there are people watching this going, okay, this is a totally political video. But to that, I say, go watch Alec from Technology Connections. He did a really great video the other day about solar panels. Solar panels. And other stuff, but solar panels. And this is a video about internet and other stuff. And it's a behind the scenes video related to Transport Evolved, and it's important to share this because this is how we make our videos and upload them to you so that you can enjoy them at home. Or swear at us in the comments section. I'm not sure which is more useful to you. So, local ISP was giving us 20 megabits per second up and down, and then sometime last year they started giving us 30 megabits per second down without us asking for it. And then the Epstein files were released, and my misgivings about Elon Musk were pushed over the top. So, for those who don't know, without sharing too much, I am a survivor of SA, sexual abuse. Nobody in my family, but I am a survivor of it. And it has caused me to suffer quite a large amount over the last couple of years. Well, the last 3 decades. And so, with his ties to Jeffrey Epstein and some of the things he said, I just couldn't, with good conscience, continue to give money to a company that he runs, aka Starlink. So, my connection is now officially severed. There you go. Now, earlier today, I logged on to the app for Starlink, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I talked to my partner, and I was hovering my finger over the cancel button. I said, well, I should really reach out to my local ISP and ask them if they have any alternatives, because Wi-Fi technology has changed an awful lot in the last 10 years or so. And when we purchased the house, the capabilities of the system that sits on the roof of our house were much less than the capabilities that are available today. Bandwidth has changed, back-end technology has changed, switching technology has changed. I mean, this is our unified Dream Machine Pro even. It's getting kind of a bit long in the tooth, and we'll need to eventually replace that. But the things that it can now do with its latest software update were unthought of a few years ago. And so our local ISP, when I rang them up and went, hey, is there any way that I can pay you more money so I don't have to pay money to Starlink and Elon Musk because I really don't want to support him anymore? They said, yeah, we can work something out. And to their credit, said local ISP then rang me back a few hours later going, we've flipped the switch. You now have 40 megabits per second minimum, and you have 30 megabits per second upload speed, give it a test and let us know. And oh, by the way, we're not going to charge you any more money. Now, I was very ecstatic at that point because Starlink had been costing us about $130 a month, $120, $130 a month. It was intermittent. It kept crapping out on us, which then caused the network to have issues. We couldn't run a lot of services on it that we really wanted to run, that our local ISP supports. And so we are done. And I now have another space on my Switch for a backup internet connection. Now I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that when Unify comes up with their 5G backup router, I've forgotten the name of it, we'll have enough money in the kitty to buy one. We'll put that on the roof where Starlink was, and then hopefully we will have a 5G connection back up the valley. And the reason why we kept Starlink so long is because our local ISP, if the power goes out, it goes out, because it relies on repeater stations, Wi-Fi repeater stations all the way down the valley to the local town. And if there is a power cut on the road that we live on, I nearly said the name of it, then it causes all of the stations to go down. And even though we have backup power, the next station down from us doesn't. And so their connection drops, and then we don't have any internet. And so Starlink was a way for us to keep that running. But honestly, I would rather have no internet than give Elon Musk any more of my money. And I want to apologize to all of you for it taking so long. I have felt like the biggest hypocrite for not ditching Starlink sooner. And I'm very glad that we're now in a position where our local ISP, who really love what we do, who really support us, has gone, yeah, by the way, the reason I'm not mentioning them by name is A, this is not sponsored, but B, if I tell you who my local ISP is, you can probably guess with a fair degree of accuracy exactly where I live, and I'd quite like that not to be the case. So support your local ISP is all I'm going to say. Speak to them about your requirements, and if you're in a similar boat to me, you never know, you might be able to get some deal arranged where you can get a better internet connection. This will hopefully solve a couple of other issues as well. Firstly, hopefully it will improve the connectivity for our Ford F-150 Lightning software downloads, and also for the Charge Station Pro, both of which have been unhappy, constantly switching between Starlink and our local ISP. Hopefully it will also mean that we can upload videos a little bit faster, because Starlink throttles video uploads. I don't know why, it always has done. It's been a real pain in the butt, and we've had to do some routing foo inside the Dream Machine Pro to try and get it to behave, and sometimes it doesn't. There will be some negatives though. The first of them being that if I'm doing a live stream and the power goes off, the live stream's over, at least for now. The second thing is, if we have a major power cut, a major weather event here, we won't be uploading videos, we won't be making videos, because we won't be able to make videos. Two of the team remotely log in to all of this from where they live, and if they can't access it, they can't make videos. And if I can't upload videos, then I can't upload videos. And that's one of the reasons why we have these two servers here, Baikonur and Enterprise. Those two servers, between them, have about 0.5 petabyte of storage, and they keep all of the important footage that we have made over the years. We don't have a backup yet. I would love to spend a couple of grand on a tape backup solution, but we just don't have the money for that. And so unfortunately, that's just going to have to wait. But I have reached out to my ISP and gone, okay, you gave me the 40 for free. If you're willing to upgrade it to 50 or 60, give me a call, because I will pay you extra for that. And I'll pay them what we were spending on Starlink. I happily send it their way if they can increase our reliability and also our network connection. So, a good piece of news. And for those curious about our road trip that we're going to be making later this month, we're going down to a certain Southern California company to film with them. We are not going to be stopping at any Tesla superchargers on the trip. We will be using Rivian Adventure Network charging stations. We will be using anything else that we can do, unless it is an absolute emergency and we have issues, in which case we will use a Tesla. But I think it's time to be active in our boycotts and vocal about it. And if you still support Elon Musk and you still support the things that he supports, you need to ask yourself, what kind of person am I? What are my values? And what am I sending as a message to the rest of the world? Because that's been a period of introspection for me. But I'm glad that it's finally free and no more. So, bye. Oh, and sorry if the title scared you. We're not going anywhere. I promise. At least, not that I know about. Don't forget you can support the channel by following the links in the down below. Also, thanks to the lovely names of people scrolling by my server and this right now. They are the people who make this channel possible with all of their kind donations and support. You can join them from $1.50 a month on Patreon. You can also send us Ko-fi. You can also buy something from our swag store. We added some new products there recently, especially the one that says pro-EV anti-fascist. I would like to see lots of those on the road. I think that's a very appropriate thing to have on your vehicle these days. And if you are from Ubiquity, by the way, and you want to help us make our system a little bit more stable, call us, because we'd love to work with you. We have lots of nerds who watch this channel. Anyway, wherever you are, whoever you love, thanks for putting up with this very ad hoc, off the cuff, behind the scenes video that has very little to do with EVs, although given the name of the company and the person that we've been talking about, I think it does have a degree of applicability. And make sure that you tell the people in your life who are important that they are important, because, well, you never know when you won't be able to tell them that again. Keep evolving.